Kiwi medical doctor David Friend has spent years working as a volunteer in countries including Sri Lanka, Sudan, Sierra Leone and Zimbabwe. He's now based in the Central African country of Zambia at a rural hospital up in the northwest, which services around 100,000 people and provides treatment for hundreds of patients each day. As part of his daily rounds, David Friend sees everything from wounds from hippo attacks to people with leprosy. But he wouldn't have it any other way. And while he was back in New Zealand to fundraise for more hospital facilities, he came in to share some of his stories about the people he loves to help and the work that he loves to do.
Well, David, welcome to the programme. Thanks for joining us. Tell us a bit about where you've come from, because I know you've come from the North Shore, but you've come from further than that today.
Yeah, thank you for the invitation to come. I'm working in northwest Zambia at Mukingi Hospital. I've been working there since about the past 3.5 years. Nearby there's a leprosy colony and yes, I take an interest in them too. It's a mission hospital, so there's morning prayers at 7:30 in the morning, followed by ward rounds, followed by either operating theatres or clinic, which run for most of the days. So I'm mainly tied up on the surgical side of things.
The leprosy colony next door, that's getting more and more unusual, isn't it? That whole leprosy is a disease that is becoming less and less common, and I guess the whole idea of a leper colony is therefore becoming less common.
Yes, I think the incidence is declining, so we're only perhaps seeing 1 or 2 new cases a year. So the folk living there, they've been there since perhaps the 1960s or 70s. They've been there a long time. So although they've been treated, their disability still remains, and they're largely the ones where they are not having any home or family to go to. We help them with fundraising for food, sugar, salt, soap, cooking oil, second-hand clothing, oil for their skin, that kind of thing. And we help them with maintaining their houses, their cooking shelters. Some we help with firewood. But often the visitors it's kind of social. They're often restricted by blindness or loss of limbs. And so we can go and talk to them and I do some medical checks, and of course if they get sick we can scoop them up and take them back to the hospital. I've worked in Africa maybe about 15 years now, but ever since I was young it had been something I'd wanted to do.
Did the reality match up to the way you thought it would be when you were a kid?
Well, not quite. The little film clip I'd seen was of a doctor sitting on a stool under a tree looking at a little African kid there, and whilst I've done that once or twice, my work's mainly centred in a hospital.
Because Zambia itself it's right in the centre,
yeah,
isn't it? It must be a fascinating area to work.
Yes, it's certainly landlocked. It's surrounded by about eight countries, but it's very special because it's never had a civil war there, no apartheid regime or anything like that. So, and all the main tribal groups all get on very well together, and so it's a real joy to be amongst these folk. So this is special in the middle of, say, a church service. There's a special song that they sing in vernacular language, and each of the different tribal groups are mentioned, and that person has to stand up and do a little dance and sit down, and I have to be listening out for Mzungu because that's my tribal group, so I have to stand up and do a little dance. And so you'd better be watching out or listening out, and so the differences are celebrated, which is wonderful.
There's a lesson for us all there.
I think so. Yeah.
I mean, one of the things I always find, we've spoken to a lot of people who are either from Africa or who've been working in Africa, and the Christian faith there is it seems to be real fundamental stuff. There's a passion there that perhaps we've lost here.
I quite agree. The previous president declared Zambia as a Christian nation, so any marketplace, then you'll often hear gospel music playing. People sing all the time their Christian songs, and it's no problem to talk to anyone about matters Christian, and you'll never get knocked back at all, ever.
So what's your hospital actually like? Is it?
Well, it's a lovely hospital. I wish some people would come and visit us there. There's 200 beds, and it's mainly divided into male and female wards, paediatric, malnutrition wards, maternity, and theatre, and a TB ward, which also deals with the HIV/AIDS, which is also a big part of the job as well.
You mentioned that you work with the prison, the local prison in Zambia. I know in some African countries, the prison, if you're in prison, your family have to look after you, and if they don't, you're stuffed. It's not like that there, where you are?
I can only speak for our local prison there, and there everyone looks well fed and cared for, but it's a reasonably low security prison, but the prisoners themselves have to grow all their own food, so they do a lot of work in their fields growing their own maize and vegetables.
And do you look after their medical needs?
Frequently. If any get sick or injured, then of course they come to the hospital. I try and visit them and do a little bit of work with them. We try and take them soap and chest sets and draft sets so they can amuse themselves during their long night times when they're locked up, barbering machines. Otherwise, we try and have a kind of roster where different local churches preach to them on a Sunday afternoon. And we're fundraising to complete their chapel in their prison. So again, it's a small part of my work, but it's one that I find absolutely fascinating. Yeah, it is a special place. You live really, it's somehow really living, really serving. That's what I really like.
Why is that?
Well, I think it's following a Christian calling. You feel something deep inside pulling you back, and there's nothing you can do about it.
Isn't that interesting? Just fascinating. If someone's listening now and thought, well, maybe some of what you said is making them think that maybe Africa or some other part of the mission field is for them.
Get trained up in something, whatever it is. There's a place for many different kinds of people in Africa, not just medical nursing, but physiotherapy, occupational therapy, pharmacy. So any paramedical field, but also fields of mechanics, diesel mechanics, construction, maintenance, plumbing, accounting, IT, administration. All those are very important. That's just within a hospital. Some even go as an unassigned spouse to, if say the other partner's got the main job. And these folk can get involved in all kinds of wonderful things. Bible studies, women's groups, orphanages. There are plenty wonderful things to get involved in. So people must take courage that it's not such a scary place as what they think. And as soon as the window's open, the opportunity's there, they must go, because otherwise the door can close. You only have to get some family problem, mortgages, problems with work, children, education, whatever, and the door can close very quickly.
You're here for a few weeks and then you're going back.
Sure, can't wait. Yeah.
David, it's great to meet you. Thank you very much indeed. It's lovely to meet you.
Thank you very much.
Sure.
And Alan Lee was talking there with New Zealand volunteer doctor David Friend, who's currently working at the Mukenge Hospital in rural Zambia. As well as being often the only surgically trained doctor in the hospital, David also gives medical support to the area's leprosy colony, which is located a 4-kilometre bushwalk from the hospital. And as part of his fundraising, David provides essentials such as food, soap and skincare preparations for the leprosy sufferers. David is also keen to raise money for a new drainage system in the colony, which will help improve the very basic living conditions there and make life a bit more comfortable for the patients. So if you feel that you'd like to contribute to those projects, you can find out more information on friendsmedicaltrust.co.nz. Again, that website is friendsmedicaltrust.co.nz.